Hi, it's Coach MK standing here with my lovely sunburn, trying to explain Romuel one more time. So, my problem with New Year's resolutions is that they come from a place of insecurity. When there are changes that we need to make, we're bosses, we're badasses, we're adults. We make those changes as they come up in our lives. There's something about the start of the new year though, where we start making up things, sort of like making up a to-do list or a checklist of those little things that we haven't done but we think we should do, and it's shaming to live in the should do. And living in the should do doesn't give you credit for what you have done. It does not acknowledge the work that you are already doing, and it certainly doesn't mitigate any of the obstacles that would have stood in your way earlier in the year if you tried to implement these changes. As a matter of fact, this is why New Year's resolutions make you feel really bad about yourself. And that moment of insecurity that we feel when we're talking about them and making those changes and discussing those changes with our friends, those are the hooks that marketers look for to try to grab you and sell you something that you probably won't use by February. Being a small business owner who is selling basically a subscription fitness product, I am acutely aware of the messages that I send, and I wanted to make sure that the messages that we sent around New Year's resolutions were not the same ones that I see reflected anywhere else. So to break it down a little bit further, here's the way most of us come up with New Year's resolutions. When I was sitting last year and I was reflecting on 2018, which for me pretty much felt like a nonstop garbage fire of what the F, I kept coming back to a few incidents throughout the year that had really hit on my self-esteem in a way that I hadn't fully acknowledged yet, but made me feel really bad. And I'm thinking, how am I going to avoid this situation in the future? What changes do I need to make? What do I need to do differently? And these are a couple of the things that I came up with. Me, out of my brain, because these are things I've heard my whole life. And that's why they're core insecurities. One of them is speak up less. Not every problem is yours to solve. Number two, don't worry about other people's feelings. You worry about other people's feelings too much. You can't, and on one hand, I get that I can't make everybody happy, but if I say something that makes a person feel hurt, then I will always think that that is a problem because it's absolutely never my intent. So, and a couple of those instances still keep me awake at night. And then number three, accept things as they are. Just go with it. Keep your mouth shut. Don't worry about what other people think. Go with it. Now think about that. If you're watching this and you've met me in any capacity for any duration ever in your life, would an MK who doesn't speak up still be MK? Would an MK who doesn't care at all about other people's feelings, would that still be consistent with who I am? If an MK who just says, oh, well, that's how it is that MK Fleming? Would a person who, if I were to implement these changes and speak up less, become timid as a mouse, accept things as they are, say, well, nothing's really going to change, and what needs to change are your feelings. Gosh, does that sound like a better or an improved version of me at all? I don't think so. Sounds like a doormat. Sounds like someone no fun. Sounds like someone really easy to manipulate. And I thank God that person is not me. These are not the changes I needed to make. These were insecurities that I had about things that went wrong over a year where a lot of things were going wrong and were completely out of my control. And if that's the place where you happen to be sitting when you make your list of New Year's resolutions, then guess what? Your list of New Year's resolutions is bullshit. There is nothing about you that needs changing. And if you think there is, again, I'm not going to argue with you, but what I want to do with Romuel is make you take a look at those list of changes that you want to make and say, does this list make me feel good? If at the end of this, I become this thing, will I be a better version of myself, really and truly? Will I be happier? Will I be more content? I mean, sure, if I didn't have opinions, I'd be way more content. This world would be a whole lot easier to deal with, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do well. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing my impacts on other people if I wasn't caring about their feelings. And accepting things as they are and just keeping my mouth shut, that doesn't work, period. This is why we're a generation that loves Xanax and therapy, is because we are completely unable to accept BS that oppresses us, that leaves us behind, that hurts us. And we have the power. We have more power than we think we do. We have the power to stop doing these things. We have the power to opt out, and you do too. You don't lack willpower. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. But there is something very wrong with the system that makes you think that this leads to better, that this leads to self-improvement, that making a list of all the things that make you special, unique, and in fact are part of who you are need to go next year, that the world needs less of you. F that. I deserve better, and so do you, and that's why we've come up with Romuel. In the next few weeks, if you listen to our podcast, it's already out on iTunes. Look out Running Life. If you're not already subscribing to Running Life, the official podcast of the Fitness Protection Program, get on that. The newest one is What is Romuel? And I talk my way through Romuel, where it came from at a higher level, and then I take in the blog post. Go over to coachedandloved.com/blog, and you will find a blog post that I wrote quite personally, much more personal than what you get in the podcast. And I talked through my own process to get how I came up with my first ROARS and my first set of MOARS. You'll hear more about those later. And how that transformed. Not just the way that I looked back on what I had actually accomplished in 2018, because I wasn't even giving myself credit for all the work I had done, but I was mad at other people hadn't. How can they if I haven't done it? Rather than toot my own horn, I've never been a tutor. I want to roar about the things I did right, roar about the things I did well, and find more of those things and commit to doing more of them in 2019. So now with this framework, when I look back, as you'll see in the blog post, on how I feel really about 2019, I'm a little surprised, more than a little surprised. I am shocked because the narrative, according to my ROARS, I've done everything that I said I was going to do. I've nailed everything without trying to. Those weren't even like guiding principles or a checklist. It was just what I did. I kept being me. And oh my gosh, when I think about it, when I look back on 2019, it's easy to say it was still a garbage fire. There was a really long time where I wasn't doing anything, worried about some things that I was having to do for my child, wondering if what was holding him back was mommy's big mouth. Wondering if the reason we were here is that I can't just accept things as they are. Why do I have to struggle to change systems that I don't like, systems that I find are unfair? I was actually questioning all that for a very big part of the year. I look back and I say, gosh, I've got this business, and it's only here, and I'm only here. And I thought I wanted to raise $16,000 to help this friend of mine buy a bus for her nonprofit, and we've only gotten to $3,000 for her, $3,000 for the other nonprofit, without looking at the fact that we raised with a teeny tiny group of people. I have a sustainable business. I have people who believe in what I'm doing so much that they are working for free. I have so many people bought into this concept that it is viable. I have more than I think that I do, but if I look back a certain way, it's easy to pick myself apart and miss all the wins. With the Romuel framework, it wasn't until I truly went back and sat with my list of ROARS and realized I've done it all, that it's changed the way I'm looking at 2019 as a whole and saying, God, that was a good year. Yeah, I did all that. Even though I wasn't running the first half of it and I didn't have the marathon that I wanted to have, that I've been dreaming of for 2 years ever since I got pregnant, even though a lot of things didn't manifest the way that I had imagined if I'd been creating a vision board in 2017, that's why I don't make vision boards. I'm not convinced they're a good thing necessarily. They become like checklists. They become prescriptive. I would have missed the fact that I YOLO'd a marathon 14 weeks after abdominal surgery. That was a lot more complicated than my OB thought it was going to be. I have created a business out of thin air with putting no resources behind it, just trying to figure it out what my message is and what I want to do and what I want to make sure that I avoid. Romuel was everything. This was bollocks. This is nothing. Trying to do this wouldn't have led to a better 2019. There's nothing about this that would have led anywhere good. Try to not be yourself, MK, and life will be better. F that. And if that is the framework you are using for you, then I'm betting it's the wrong one too, and Romuel might be the solution, even if it's a little esoteric and a little difficult to comprehend. I'm going to be here with you every step of the way. Check your email. It's going out in an hour. You're going to have a nice infographic that helps you understand the process of converting your resolutions into ROARS. You're going to have me doing it personally in a live stream, along with other worksheets that are being made at the moment. And by the way, guys, they are super duper cool. And not only will I be there with me, not only will I be there, I brought the big guns with me. Jimmy Olawale, who is a certified therapist. You've heard her on the Lighten Up series of the podcasts. And Dahlia Kinsey, the school nutrition dietitian. both will be joining me in this live stream, since frankly, most New Year's resolutions are around food, fitness, diets, and what we're not going to tolerate. I'm not going to feel this next year. I'm going to be a better person next year. Very vague type things that a therapist would love to tear apart. And we're all going to do that. We're not going to tear you apart. We're going to show you that there's no part of you that needs putting back together. You are coached. You are loved. You are winning at life. And with the ROAR framework, we're going to roar into and through 2020. And when it ends next year, we're going to look back and say, yes, I did, and rewrite the narrative you thought you were living. But if it happened for me, and it absolutely happened for me, then it will happen for you. Just don't get sunburned.